We have new Trump impeachment updates, new numbers from New York in their COVID handling in nursing homes, and then updates on Kyle Rittenhouse and his bail after him apparently breaking his terms with the courts. These stories and more in your Nuts and News Up. Starting us off with some impeachment updates. Yesterday, the impeachment house managers were able to complete their portion of the impeachment trial. They had 2 days to go into why they believe that Trump was guilty. From Mother Jones, we have that they lay out, the apparent Trump being more guilty than your thought. The unfortunate thing, if we read through this article, they mention how the Trump supporters stormed the Capitol, that they were targeting Pence. They also mentioned how he apparently encouraged his supporters to surround a Biden campaign bus, and they give examples of his supporters doing actions that are, in all seriousness, nothing that we should be supporting in our country. The issue that they failed to make, though, is how Trump's language is considered incitement of violence. This has been a key standard that we've had throughout our country, that there's a difference between people doing something based on your speech and you inciting it. If we had the standard for violence was that you said something and that someone committed a violent act in the reaction of that speech, then we would be holding Bernie Sanders to this impeachable standard after his supporters were shooting up a Republican softball game. Also, we see how many supporters in the BLM movement have been targeting individuals like Ron Paul, and we would be able to track that back to someone like Maxine Waters, who said to get in Republicans' faces. There's an obvious standard that we have that the individuals in politics use hyperbolic language, and this is something we need to remember. We cannot just say that violence happened and that's directly linked to who they support. Next, in a interview or in a segment that Rachel Maddow does, she actually gives the argument that I've been saying for the last couple of days, and I think it's worth stating.
After he's out of office, you go and arrest him. So there is no opportunity where the President of the United States can run rampant in January at the end of his term and just go away scot-free. The Department of Justice does know what to do with such people.
So Maddow's using this to, almost turn it on the Trump team, saying, oh, he should just be arrested. And that's exactly the point that we've been making. Impeachment is not meant to be the judicial system. Impeachment is for taking an individual out of office and out of the ability to run in the future. Yeah, I know that the second portion of that, the real question is it an and or an or statement? Specifically, in coding language, we, as a software engineer, we kind of take those a little bit more seriously than you might have a constitutional literalist might. The issue here, though, is that the Trump defense team is making the argument that was being addressed by the House managers, who were saying that if a president made an impeachable act in their last weeks of office, then there's no way to hold them accountable. He's making the obvious claim that if someone does something impeachable, that's a high crime or misdemeanor, the DOJ or local prosecutors would be able to hold them arrest them and charge them, etc. The issue is that those actions have not happened as a result of the January 6th Capitol riots or on any of Trump's language regarding his claims of election fraud. What we see here is clearly that they're shifting the area that justice should be done. The crimes of inciting violence could be held in a criminal court, yet Democrats are essentially saying that they know they cannot meet that standard in a criminal court and asking that the Senate do it for them. Next, we have from the Daily Wire that a Texas sheriff states that it's absolutely true that Biden is releasing illegals into U.S. without COVID tests. This comes after there's been multiple stories that anyone that is traveling to the United States has to take a COVID test. It also comes with 14-day quarantines, etc. However, when the Texas sheriffs were finding illegals crossing into the border, they were ordered to release them without COVID tests. In the Daily Wire article, they say, A.J. Louderback, sheriff of Jackson County in Texas, told Fox News host Tucker Carlson on Monday Night News that it was absolutely true that the Biden administration was releasing illegal immigrants into U.S. communities without giving them a COVID-19 test. It's absolutely true, Louderback said. It's even if I can continue, Tucker, the memo that I received last week is essentially a defund the ICE by memo, by a moratorium that was sent out by David Borkowski on January 20th or 21st. So this is particularly devastating document for Texas Americans here in the United States. The message really has been sent. When I read it first and looked at it, it's a message to the world. You can only come here illegally. You can commit crimes here against Americans and remain here illegally. Louderback said the policies of the Biden administration when it comes to the southern border and immigration are going to get hurt, seriously injured, or killed. Next, we find from MontanaFreePress.org that Gianforte says he'll lift the state mask mandate this week. He's the Republican governor of Montana. He's obviously getting some pushback from his Democrat colleagues who state that obviously, like, this is a safety issue. They do note in the article that the number of new COVID-19 cases reported in Montana has been generally trending downward since late November. However, the trend is the state's official death count is less clear, in part because, as the Great Falls Tribune reported, 49 COVID-19 deaths in Yellowstone County were reported in mass last week as health officials complete a review of death records dating as far back as last September. What they're essentially stating there is that they just, put a bunch of data into a single week. Obviously, that would imply that that's just bad data to be using. However, he did state at the end that since we're not out of the woods yet, I will continue wearing a mask, and I encourage all Montanans to do the same to protect themselves, their loved ones, and their neighbors. They do earlier in the article state that the main goal is that this goes on to local communities. It makes a lot more sense for individuals in a city or highly populated environments to be taking more safety protocols as they have more interactions with individuals than people in the rural areas that obviously have less human interactions. From the New York Post, they have that a Cuomo aide admits that they hid nursing home data so feds wouldn't find out. In the article, Governor Cuomo's top aide privately apologized to Democratic lawmakers for withholding the state's nursing home death toll from COVID-19, telling them we froze out of fear of true numbers would be used against us by federal prosecutors, the Post had learned. The stunning admission of a cover-up was made by Secretary to the Governor Melissa DeRosa during a video conference call with state Democratic leaders in which she said that Cuomo administration had rebuffed a legislative request for the tally in August because right around the same time, then President Donald Trump turned this into a giant political football, according to audio recording of the 2-hour-plus meeting. This is after there's been a lot of pushback against Cuomo for how he handled the coronavirus crisis, specifically how he even went to the audacity of writing himself a book on how to be a leader during this time period. And then we find out that he was actually hiding numbers for stuff like the COVID deaths in nursing homes. From the AP, we have that a judge declines a new arrest warrant for Kyle Rittenhouse. This was after he apparently broke his bail by changing address. However, something they note in the article is that this routinely happens. In it, they say Schroeder refused both the bringer's requests during a testy hearing. The judge said people out on bail often fail to update their address and aren't arrested. He ordered Rittenhouse's attorney, Mark Richards, to turn over Rittenhouse's current physical address, but said it would be sealed to the public, and only he and the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department would have access to it. The judge refused to give Bringer the address, saying he didn't want more violence in Kenosha. The move and the comment left Bringer flabbergasted. I hope you're not suggesting sharing this with our office would lead to further violence, Bringer said. We are not the public. We are the prosecuting agency. I have never heard of a situation where the information has been withheld from my office. What we have here is just a lawyer that almost looks like he's intentionally trying to dox Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm not saying that that's something that's been done before or anything, but there's absolutely no reason for a prosecutor to need to know the address of one of their defendants, especially when they're out on bail. And I find it very ironic the number of people that have been pushing and saying how like this bail should be higher or whatnot after that we saw all the bailouts with the BLM protest over the summer that essentially burned down cities. Finally, from the Daily Wire, we have that the entire Irish rugby team in international tournament refuses to take a knee. Apparently, a lot of the rugby games, they were taking a knee to show solidarity with the BLM protests, and the entire Irish team refused to do so. In the article, it states, this week, the entire rugby squad of the team from Ireland unanimously refused to take a knee before they played against the Welsh team in the first round of the Six Nations tournament. As an anti-racism message played over the public address system on Sunday before the kickoff of the match, the Irish team remained standing. Their action followed nearly half of the 30 players on Saturday's England vs Scotland match also refusing to take a knee. English star Billy Vunipola refused to take a knee on Saturday last November before England's 40-0 victory against Georgia in the Autumn Nations Cup. Vunipola was one of 3 players refusing to take a knee. He told The Good, The Bad, and the Rugby podcast at the time. A similar situation happened with the BLM movement last week when we were asked if we wanted to take a knee or not. What I saw in terms of that movement was not aligned with what I believe in. They were burning churches and Bibles. I can't support that. Even though I am a person of color, I'm still more a person of, I guess, Jesus, the Daily Mail reported. The Rugby Football Union expressed support for the 3 players who refused to take a knee in November, stating during the Autumn Nations Cup, Twickenham Stadium is featuring messages of support for rugby's against racism, BLM, and the NHS. England's men's and women's players and match officials are given the choice on how if they want to make gestures to help raise awareness for diversity and inclusion before the start of each game. The RFU supports any player's decision and equally believes that plans off the England stage are as important in driving necessary improvement and change across areas of our game. This shows a notable issue that we also see going on in France in the last week. We saw stories of France complaining that a lot of America's wokeness has been migrating there, and they're starting to having their own unrest. We see similar things going on here with Ireland and England in rugby. And what we see is really a breakdown of, movements like BLM that, they have these mottos that no one would particularly deny. Black Lives Matter. I don't know of a single individual that would say Black Lives don't. But the main issue is you have these movements that push significantly more than that. I can't believe that you believe Black Lives Matters while you're burning down black businesses. I can't believe you believe Black Lives Matters while you're burning down black homes, killing black individuals in the streets. With that, that's your February 12th Not So News update. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and have a good one.